Bucknutters, hopefully for real this time. It is Monday, March 17th. Top of the morning to you. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5. I am Dan Rubin, going to be joined by Dave Biddle here in just a second. This podcast does cover your national champions. We had some technical difficulties and some reverb in the first one, so we had to scrap it and get started with this one, and we are psyched. Spring practice starts today. We are going to get you totally covered for that. It's amazing it's here already. We played so far into the winter that spring has sprung already, and we're going to get to it. But first, I've got to let you know about a new sponsor we are so psyched about, and that is Brunt. These are some incredible work boots, and I'm going to show them to you in just a minute. Anyone who's ever had a pair of work boots or construction boots before this knows I had some old school, brands that you would normally wear. And these are the most comfortable things I've ever had. Check these things out. First of all, they sent me a sweet hat. Look at this thing. That is a fire hat right there. And look at these boots, man. Look at how thick they are at the bottom. These things can get through anything, man. And they look stylish. They almost look like a trendy pair of boots. And you wear them on the construction site. It's the best-selling Omen work boot. Checks every box. It's lightweight, water-resistant, slip and oil-resistant, heat-resistant, electrical hazard rated. You can finally have durable work boots that are as comfortable as your sneakers. Over 500,000 other customers are on it already. Brunt knows they have the best boots on the planet, so they'll let you try any of their products on the job risk-free. All of Brunt's boots carry the names of real workers in the trades who test and inspire them. Brunt didn't just make a durable work boot. They reinvented comfort for the hardest workers out there. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt by using code Bucknuts at checkout. Just head to brunt.com, BRUNT.com/Bucknuts, and use code Bucknuts and you're all set. Even better, Brunt lets you try all their products on the job, as I said, risk-free. After you purchase, they will ask you what you heard about, where you heard about them. Please support Bucknuts and tell them our show sent you. All right. Speaking of a man ready for hard work and construction of a national championship defense, it's Dave Biddle, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, the tables are turned here, and Dave is the host, and I am providing glorious analysis. Today it will be Dave because he needs to get out and cover this team, so I will handle the back end. Dave, are you celebrating the confirmation that the Bengals will have the highest paid wide receiver duo of all time?
I am, and I understand the detractors. I also understand the fact that they just allowed the price to go up. But I'm still glad they did it because here's the thing. When you have great players, pay them. I use the Jesse Bates example. They let Jesse Bates go, and then they've been scrambling around with the chicken with their head cut off trying to replace him ever since. They wasted a first-round pick on Dax Hill thinking he'd be the replacement. They wasted money on Nick Scott. Then they wasted money on Geno Stone. They should have just signed Jesse Bates. So, and they should have signed these guys earlier, but Joe Burrow wanted it done. I imagine he's going to restructure his contract because he wanted this done. He wanted Gesicki. They got Gesicki. So I like it. I hear what people are saying, though. People that are making fun of it, like, oh, are the Bengals trying to, win games 50-49? I get it. But I like it as a Bengal fan for sure.
Now we're going to talk about the Cowboys. No, we're not. It's worse. All right. What we are going to talk about. I tell you what, Dave, as we got ready for today, I cannot believe it's already time for football again. I assume this is I don't want to call it a hangover, my bask-over after the Natty Championship. I still find myself in glory mode. What are we going to see today? So what exactly happens today? What are we doing? Who will be out there? Get everyone ready, as even if you're not ready to turn the page will be turned today.
Less than 2 months after winning the national championship, the Buckeyes will be practicing here in about a little over a half hour. I don't have a watch on. I just pretended like I do. Let me look at my wrist here. We're not going to see a whole lot today, but it's still going to be really cool. Here's why. What I mean, we're not going to see a lot. We're not going to see much football today. Obviously, they're going to be in shells. We're not going to see any tackling or anything like that first day of practice. But what's going to be really cool, I always love, Dan, seeing Buckeyes practicing for the first time. their first real practice as a Buckeye, whether you're one of the early enrollee freshmen like Devin Sanchez, Riley Pettyjohn, and those guys, Tavian St. Clair, or whether you're a transfer like a Max Clare or a CJ Donaldson or some of these guys. I always love, obviously not the star power of last year when the guys transferred in, but it's really cool. And I think it's really cool that these freshmen were able to go to the Cotton Bowl, experience that like they were on the team, just like they were redshirting, even they had just enrolled. Yeah, but we go to the semifinals, go down to Dallas. Okay, that sounds good. How about we go to the national championship game in Atlanta? So it was a really cool experience for those freshmen. It's going to be fun seeing them out there running around today, the freshmen, the transfers. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Julian Sand throughout spring, but we're not going to know much today. I'm going to do a practice report. I'm going to just regale the people with, Julian Sand did this and this. It doesn't really mean anything yet. Certain practices will mean stuff. Today, pretty much is going to be almost a walkthrough practice. It's still going to be very cool. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage for you.
They are not in the business of revealing much when it comes to practice.
Mm-mm.
They have some organized times later in the spring where you guys will get the chance to see a little bit more. But that does not stop judgment. And I consider myself one of these people. The first time you see a guy in his uniform, you are going to judge what he looks like based on all the recruiting you heard and all this. I remember seeing Zeke the first time in his uniform, and I'm like, that guy has a big butt. I mean, he was thick as a friend. You know what I mean? And he was legit 6 foot. And I'm like, okay. Dontre Wilson, I remember, had a big. So it's really interesting. Who are some guys that Dave Biddle's eye will find early that he's very interested in seeing? I know you mentioned some of the guys, but some guys are coming back in new numbers. I always want to see the weight room test. You will see a couple guys walk out there. You'll be like, who is that? Someone will have added 15 to 20 pounds of good weight besides Devin Sanchez. We already know that one. And BP. So BP Miller. So tell us who's at the top of your list.
Yeah, well, I mean, Julian Sand's a guy, he told me in Atlanta that his biggest thing during the offseason, I think he is a little tall, and you've talked about this. I think he is a little taller than some Buckeye fans believe. Some Buckeye fans are like, he's listed at 6'1". They're like, is he really 6'1"? It's like, yeah, I mean, he's closer to 6'2" than he is 6'1", actually. He really is. But he said, he's like, he does need to bulk up a little bit. So that's one. I'm hearing great things about Jelani Thurman, that he's looking like a man-child. I mean, he already looked like an NFL tight end out there physically. Now, apparently, the Mickey Marotti effect is taking effect with Jelani. So many different guys. I would say the Armstrong twins, but I got a chance to talk to them in Atlanta, and they had already filled out. Like they didn't, they wanted to put on X amount of pounds, whatever their goal was. They both did. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Ian Moore is another guy I'm really looking forward to. Oh, Oni Onwa, I'm looking forward to seeing transfers. He's been here now a couple of months. How does he look? He already, looked pretty darn good at Rice at 6'6", 345 pounds. How does he look? Just across the board. Lachlan told me, because CJ Donaldson's listed at 6'2", 238 pounds. I asked Carlos Lachlan, the running backs coach, is that about accurate? He's about 238. He's like, we already have him down to 230, and that's exactly where we want him. How does CJ Donaldson look? Hearing great things about James Peoples. He already looked like, he was ready to roll as a true freshman last year. And I think he would have been an effective running back as a true freshman last year. He just happened to have the best tandem that we've ever seen at tailback at Ohio State ahead of him. And both guys stayed healthy. And maybe the second best tandem ever at Ohio State behind only Archie Griffin and Pete Johnson. And so I think James Peoples and CJ Donaldson are going to be a great 1-2 punch. I'm leaving a lot of guys out, man. I'm looking forward to seeing Edric Houston. Larry Johnson said Edric's up to about 285, 290. That's about where they want him to be a 3 tech. Came in about 270 last year. So they weren't sure if he was going to be a defensive end or D tackle. So, man, I could almost go through the entire roster. I'm also looking forward to Dan getting the new roster. I love getting the new roster, new height and weights, numbers, I just love the new roster. I love football rosters. I'm a football nerd. And we're getting Ryan Day after practice. That's going to be really cool as well.
One thing I know that you guys will do from today's practice report, and again, Dave, before we sign off here, we will let you know where you find it. You're going to want to become a premium member at Bucknuts here because you get some stuff off the top, homogenized stuff, but then the real good stuff, you got to pay for that because Dave and I need to get a new pair of boots. That said, we got a lot of new faces coming in new spots. One thing I know you guys will do is you will list who is in the first team, offensive line, left to right. the second team. And when I say first team, I mean the first group to take the field. Let's not run off at the pen here thinking that the first 5 that goes out there is locked in stone. That said, when you write your wrap-up this morning or your little peek, who do you expect to be the first group left to right on the offensive line?
Yeah, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of mystery here. I think they'll go with Onionwa at left tackle. I think they'll go with – it's interesting, man, because Saraveld, I almost feel bad that he wasn't technically a starter in the national championship game and even some of the playoff games because he played both left guard and right guard, but wasn't and played as many snaps as Shabola and Montgomery, but wasn't technically a starter. So it really doesn't matter. But I'll say they'll do what they did in the national championship game and have Montgomery at left guard, Hinsman at center, Shabola at right guard, and then maybe they'll kick Saraveld out to right tackle just to like make sure he's in there with the ones, even though he's probably going to play guard. But I also won't be surprised if Daniels is out there. Although when I say Onionwa at left tackle and perhaps Daniels at right tackle, are they going to put transfers in their first ever practice at Ohio State with the ones right away? Maybe not. Last year, Will Howard was going second behind Devin Brown, even though it was pretty clear. We knew what Will Howard was getting in NIL. We kind of knew what we had in Devin Brown. Solid guy, good backup quarterback. Probably was not going to win a national championship with him. We knew Will Howard was going to be the guy. In spring, he's out here taking second-team reps last year. So, I have a good feel of what the starting offensive line is going to look like if everybody stays healthy. What's it going to look like today? Depends on if they play around with, well, we don't let a transfer in his first practice go first. So Ian Moore might be in there at right tackle. But I think, I'll be surprised, even though he's a transfer, if Onionwa was not in there, though.
That's a really good question. That's kind of why I asked it. I do think – I'm trying to think who you'd even put in there, though. You'd have to have someone who even took snaps there. I'm not even sure that person's on the roster if you think about it. Mikulski was the call-up, Zen Mikulski, and he's no longer here. So, yeah, that's very interesting. That's kind of a new thing. Like we used to no freshman would be up there and stuff. No transfer. I'm not sure those rules apply anymore with the portal getting to where it has been, but I could see that happening. We're going to talk defensive line here in a minute, but I've got to let you know about our other sponsor. You're seeing these sponsors because they love the Nutters, and they love the Nutters because they smell great. Dave is going to be out about, and you should see these sports writers here. Really fit group, focus on fitness, no extra sweat for this group. And if there was, that's why Dave has Mando on. He'll have it all day. Full body deodorant. Reduces or prevents sweat, natural, 100%, and then you have plenty of other good stuff to know. Dave and I personally like Mando because it goes everywhere. I've tried it everywhere. I'll admit I've done it, and I'm not going to use some of the language here because it's a little bit risque. But this stuff goes where you need it most. That's why we personally endorse it. It's a whole body deodorant. It's for the the folds, the nooks, the crannies. Baking soda free and paraben free, clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Mando starter pack also is perfect for new customers. You can see it on the stroll. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Bucknuts at shopmando.com. All right, Dave, we know this. The entire defensive line will have new starters.
Yep.
You will have a new starter, at least one at linebacker. And then depending how you look at the secondary as a group of starters with the nickel or 5, lots of new guys. We're kind of going over covered ground here, but just to get everyone back and rolling, let's talk about the defensive line. We have on the edges, if I'm wrong, correct me, and then I want to hear what you have to say about these guys. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, 2 guys who have definitely waited their turn, and I would think in other programs may have boogied. And then inside, you've got Caden McDonald and Edric Houston. Not a lot of experience in terms of starting. The guys in the middle are kind of young. I heard someone say Caden Curry needed to gain some weight. The defensive line was a question group, believe it or not, for much of the season. because the expectations were so high. And as we know, really turned it on in the playoffs. All four guys, I would say, played their best football at Ohio State during the playoffs, which is good coaching and good recruiting and just good programming. What will we see this year? Do you feel like it will be an advantage? Do you worry about the depth? Because if you don't have an experienced starting four, guess what you also don't have? Experienced backups. Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson were a luxury, man. Those guys could have started on a lot of Big Ten teams. So what is the state of the defensive line? And wouldn't you know it, Larry Johnson's back 10 years after people who left their jobs said he was going to leave his job.
Yeah, he's got 2 national championship rings now at Ohio State, the legend. Yeah, depth is a concern. I do like the projected starters, and you nailed them with Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry.
Are they big enough?
On the edge. Yeah, and Caden McDonald, I really like him. I thought, he was so good on some of those goal line stands. He was a big reason why they were just stuffing people at the goal line. I think he's going to be really good as a junior. They want to get him in a little bit better shape, but I don't mind that. I like my big floppy belly, 330-pound D tackles. You don't need to be in great shape to be a great D tackle. We've seen it time and time again, but they want to get him in a little bit better shape. Edric Houston now bulking up 285, 290, like we were saying. I like him as the 3 tech. So good spot there. But as you were saying, those guys were the backups last year. Where are those? Who are they going to be the backups this year? And, I think C.J. Hicks moving to defensive end is interesting. I think Logan George from Idaho State. I think that was a good get. Very productive. Huge jump going from Idaho State to Ohio State. I'm not breaking news there. Depth is a concern at D tackle. Now, that can get alleviated real quick if Jason Moore steps up, if Will Smith Jr. steps up, if Eric Mensah steps up. Some of these guys step up that are young D tackles. We won't be worried about it. But when I asked Ryan Day last week about this, it was actually a little more than a week ago. It wasn't this past Friday. It was the previous Friday. So about 10 days ago, I asked Ryan Day if they were going to go in the portal and maybe what positions might they be looking for. Defensive line was the first, position group out of his mouth. So they're definitely going to be looking in the portal. For those that don't know, the portal will open pretty much right after spring ball, about a week after Ohio State concludes spring ball. The next window of the portal will open there in late April. So, yes, Dan, to me, depth is a concern on the defensive line, but I do like the projected starters a lot.
We only have Dave here for a few more minutes because he's got to get out of here. So I want to ask you this question. As we enter spring, you brought up the portal. Do you expect them to go heavy into the portal again? Do you expect there to be a lot of defections? So keep in mind, we had 1 year, one rotation one cycle to get used to the previous schedule. Now it's changed. So it's kind of altered. I don't think you're going to see the mass exodus of studs that we did in the first time the portal came out. And keep in mind, we got very lucky that a certain legendary coach retired. That helped with the portal tremendously. Mm-hmm. Rings in the mail. But so take us through that, what you expect, because we're back into uncharted waters. Do you expect there to be a mass exodus? Do you think this is their group? There'll be an addition mode, what positions, etc.?
Yeah, as far as departures, I think what's going to happen, if I had to guess, I don't have a name. I think there's going to be one guy who's not a frontline guy, not anybody who we're counting on to be okay, we got to have this guy. There's going to be one guy who transfers. This is just me spitballing. That'll surprise us. We could have used that guy, not as a frontline starter, but it's too bad he's leaving. And then there's going to be another guy or two that was not in the plans, that was buried on the depth chart. The scholarship guys were okay, that makes sense. That's my prediction. They'll lose 2 or 3 guys. They'll bring in, I'll say 1 or 2, because they've already done a good job, I think, in the portal. And last year you could not have done a better job. And yes, thank you, Nick Saban. I mean, to get 5 guys and hit on all 5 of them, it's absolutely insane what they did. Caleb Downs, the best player in the portal. Seth McLaughlin ended up being the best center in college football. Will Howard ended up turning into Joe Burrow during the playoffs. Had a good regular season, I thought, Big Willie style did. But then in the playoffs turned into Joe Burrow, and I don't say that lightly. And then also getting Quinshon Judkins, who I think now a lot of helium now. You and I have been talking about it. I love Travion, but if I'm drafting, I'm taking Quinshon ahead of Travion just because he's a 3-down back. And I know you've talked a lot about that. So Quinshon was a heck of a get. And who am I leaving out? I'm leaving out somebody. Who am I leaving out that they got in the portal? Kaz Merrick. Kaz Merrick was a good get. And this tight end room is going to be awesome this year. Max Clare, for those who don't know, this dude is a stud. He's going to play in the NFL for a long time. And Kazmarek and Bennett Christian, those guys were out there a lot during the national championship run. G. Scott had a great year as the starter. So nothing against him, obviously. But, man, this tight end room's looking really, really good. So, yeah, I do think that they will, based on what Coach Day said, I do think they'll add a player or two in the portal, but they've already done a good job. And they'll lose probably 2 or 3 guys, but nobody that's really going to keep us up late at night.
I know there was some concern about the portal and people thought like some of the frontline players would leave. Yeah, I really would be. I'd be shocked if anybody who's expected to get like heavy rotation minutes even considers the portal. It doesn't really make any sense if you think about it. I guess it's possible some other school could prepare a ridiculous NIL offer for a guy who maybe at Ohio State doesn't fill the same starring role. But that's very risky to me in terms of the other teams if they're counting on that. And I guess it's possible. And look, like I said about uncharted waters and there's money involved, there's going to be stuff that happened that we didn't see coming. I get that. But maybe I'm off base here. Wouldn't you be shocked if someone who's expected to even play consistent minutes hits the portal?
Well, I said I wasn't going to name any names, but I'll just throw these guys out there, and I hope they stay. But you hit on it. Let's say coming out of spring, they're like, hey, man, we really like our tight end room, man. We got Max Clare, we got Kazmarek, we got Jelani, we got Bennett Christian. We love these guys. We're going to do a lot of 12 personnel. These guys are going to play a lot. Max might be the starter. Kaz might be the starter. Jelani might be the starter. We're not sure. Then somebody maybe in Georgia, where he's from, throws a lot of money at Jelani. I mean, and he's not promised to be the starter. He's not even promised to be the backup. He's promised to be at least in the top 3, and he's entering his 3rd year. Would that be out of the realm of possibility if somebody threw a bunch of money at Jelani Thurman to come be their starting tight end that he wouldn't even consider it? No, we have to be realistic. He would consider it. What about a C.J. Hicks? Okay, we talked about C.J. Hicks at defensive ends, looking good. But are we talking about him as a starter? No. Do I think he's happy at Ohio State? Yes. I know he is. Do we know the foundation is taking care of him? Yes. Let's say somebody comes to him, they need a defensive end, and they double whatever he's getting. I don't know exactly what he's getting. If you're C.J. Hicks, are you going to at least listen to that? Probably. So I don't know, man. I mean, but in the NIL, it changes everything. But they're not going to lose any top line guys. But guys that are like rotation pieces, they're not guaranteed to start. If somebody comes and throws a bunch of money at them through back channels, I think that's actually is anything illegal? I was going to say, I don't even know if that's legal, the tampering. I don't think anything's illegal in college football right now. So regardless, even if it was through back channels, those things happen, as we all know. So absolutely, that's a possibility. But Ryan Day has created such a great culture over there. I don't think it's going to happen. And these guys get to go on their little victory marathon, as I'm calling it. I don't call it a lap. Don't call it a lap. Make it a victory marathon. I want all 26.2 miles, okay? And then maybe keep going. Just stay basking, So I think
stay basking.
Stay basking, man. And I think these guys want to stick around for that. Then again, money talks. I'm not stupid.
Just as an example, you brought up C.J. Hicks, and you know this, Dave. C.J. Hicks loves being a Buckeye.
Yeah, he does. Yep.
He's not.
Yep.
I mean, he's from Ohio. He'll drop the 937 on me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
He loves being a Buckeye. If you would have seen him, I know we go back to that foundation thing. It's going to work out for him. All right, Dale, I'll get you out on this, and then I'll read one more ad, and everyone will be happy.
Okay.
Who is going? And I wrote down my choice.
All right.
Who is going to be the surprise darling of camp? The only rule is we cannot have mentioned him already on this show.
Peyton Pierce.
Okay. Middle linebacker out of Texas. A guy who we didn't see a lot of that we are going to see a lot of. You can talk about that. You did a story on him, so kind of way to rehash there. Let's talk about him a little bit.
It's pretty obvious that James Laurinaitis loves him. So that's a pretty good indicator that he's going to play a lot. I think they're going to use more 3-backer sets this year. And regardless, we knew who the top 2 backers were coming back, Sonny and Arvell. And James has no problem saying, yeah, the top 3 are, those 2 plus Peyton Pierce. Now he's like, who's going to be the number 4 guy? So get ready to see a lot of Peyton Pierce. I'm getting some Pete Werner vibes. I think Pete Werner was one of those guys that not every Ohio State fan, I think a lot of Ohio State fans knew he was very good, but I think he was a little underrated by some Ohio State fans. So I'll go with Peyton Pierce. There's a lot of guys that I could go with. I'm sure I'm going to be kicking myself not picking somebody, but because there's like seriously like 20 guys I can mention, but I'll go with Peyton Pierce based on what James Laurinaitis has said. And I really liked his film. And these Texas boys, man, love these Texas boys. They're playing top competition. You know, it's like almost like they're playing college football in high school anyway, with these huge crowds that they have. And Buckeyes have done pretty damn well with recruits from Texas.
You think? All right, here's mine.
Lincoln Kienholz. I like it.
Who's the most popular guy on every
notice?
The backup quarterback is always, and I say backup in air quotes because that's always the most popular guy. And here's another thing. People think Lincoln Kienholz is the guy that played against Missouri, who literally was like yanking a kid out of the stands and being like, no big deal. Go in here and play against, Missouri had I think several NFL guys on defense. We did not put our first line in there. And that was, you want to talk about someone getting thrown to slaughter or led to slaughter? That was it. So our impression of him is not great. And people are going to see him out there 18 months or whatever is later, and he's going to be the strapping, decoding, lighting it up. Go ahead.
By the way, I know we have a lot of ladies in the chat, as we are wont to do. I love that. I imagine the ladies like Lincoln Kienholz. He looks like he's a freaking movie star, and he is an absolute tremendous athlete. I know most of you know that. I know you
Seriously.
know that, Dan. He was the USA Today National Athlete of the Year, regardless of sport, regardless of what state you're from. He was the National Athlete of the Year when they did their celebrity softball tournament, the Cardell Jones softball tournament over at Huntington Park this past summer. Emeka the previous year put on a show. Emeka Egbuka is a fantastic baseball player, softball player. Lincoln one-upped him, and that is hard. I never thought that would be possible. Lincoln Kienholz, man, he looks like a movie star, and I am so glad he's sticking around. I think this is the exception to the rule, though. Usually the backup quarterback is the most popular guy in town if there's questions about the starting quarterback. I think Julian Sand, I imagine the ladies like Julian Sand a little bit too, but Julian looks like one of those guys that looks like he's still in high school or something, though. Lincoln looks like he's like a movie star right now. So I'm going to be seeing these guys here in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I think Kienholz will beat out Sand. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just
saying
that he's going to be a lot better than people think. And if you really want to look at someone who was a good high school athlete, I'll just leave you with this. We have use of the Associated Press photo database. And so they'll shoot occasional high school games. And so when a guy comes up that we're recruiting, I'll go look and see, oh, okay, did his team make the state championship? There may be one or two photos of a guy who's like the best football player in the history of their town. There are about 200 photos of Lincoln Kienholz in the database because he led his team to the state tournament in the Dakotas. I can't remember if it's north or south right now. I'll never get that. That's just no space in my south. There's no space in my brain for the differentiation there. But baseball, basketball, football, and he is like in the center of every picture. You want to like the classic quarterback, shortstop, point guard. You are looking at him. So 3-sport athlete and dominated. Emily, you have that right. All right. Appreciate it. I'm going to let Dave go. Dave, let the people know before you leave how they can read your stuff today.
Get on Bucknuts. Hopefully I'll have it posted because we'll have a little bit of window after we have to leave practice and before we get Ryan Day. So hopefully I'll get the practice report up before we get Ryan Day. So I'm hoping to get it up at around 11 a.m., if not before then, 10:45 maybe at the earliest. So get on Bucknuts around 10:45, 11 a.m. I'll have a practice report, and then we'll have more. We'll keep adding to it. We'll have videos. We'll have pictures. We'll have the full report from Ryan Day, what he said, story, full video of the Ryan Day press conference. So keep it locked to Bucknuts starting around 10:45 a.m.
There he goes. Dangerous Dave Biddle, and we appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun to nice try there.
Oh, a little head fake. Oh. Okay, I'll see you. This for real. I'm leaving. Bye. Boop.
Dave's full of energy. It's a big day here, man. We're the national champs, and we get to go back and watch the guys in pseudo pads today. You can see Julian saying, throw the rock around, and my guy Lincoln Kienholz. I'm sure I'll get tagged for that. But you got to eat. You don't have a lot of time. You know what Dave's doing before he leaves? He's eating his factor meals because he has time. He only had 5 minutes. 2 minutes, the best TV dinner kind of vibe stuff you'll ever have. It arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto, they got it all. You reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that cannot be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All right, Bucknutters. Back at it. Have a good one, Buck.